Hey guys, welcome to Warhammer Stuff. Today we have the Adeptus Custodes Dread Host versus the Blood Angels. So let's go ahead and check out the armies.
Alright, so for Blood Angels, I am bringing 1997 points and 2 CP of Blood Angels. So first for my Warlord, obviously Commander Dante. And such, he's a fairly strong melee fighter. He gives some decent buffs. He has -1 to hit in melee. He gives me +1 command point. And he has Chapter Master traits and the rerolls and such, but his Warlord trait adds 3 inches to that, so he has a 9-inch aura. Very nice. And he's a 2-up and a 4-up. Alright, and then Sanguinary Priest. I don't know why it says Legends. Haven't figured that out. And he's just a basic Sanguinary Priest. He has a jetpack or jump pack to make him move, and a power fist, give him some ability. And he has basically everything that the apothecaries do. He gives feel no pains. He can heal someone, an infantry or stuff, for D3 wounds. And he has a warlord trait, Soul Warden. Every time I receive a mortal wound, everyone within 6 inches of him that receives a mortal wound on a 5-up, it's not lost. And he has Icon of the Angel, which is all friendly Blood Angel units within 6 inches of it can reroll charges. So that's going to be very useful. So he is a buffer and a healer. And then we have Chief Librarian Mephiston. Very, very strong. He has the Quickening, reroll advance and charge rolls for the Psyker, and add D3 attacks to him. Blood Lance, basically do a bunch of wounds to anyone that passes over. Blood Boil, which is if I get higher than their toughness on my psychic test, I do D3. If I do double, it's 3 flat. And he has Cast 2, Deny 2, and he has +1 to deny. He's a very strong melee profile. His weapon is ridiculous. It's basically a power fist with no drawbacks. And so he's going to do tremendous amount of damage. And he has a 5-up Feel No Pain. Alrighty then. And then we have a company champion. Small guy. But he hits on 2s. 3-up armor save, but he has a... whatchamacallit in his thing. He has a combat shield. So that gives him a 2-up armor save and a 5-up invulnerable save. And then he has also the Relic Blade of Triumph. So +3 strength, so he's hitting on strength 7. AP -3, 3 damage flat. He doesn't have a Mastercraft as his power sword, it just shows that there because that's what it replaced. And if he's within range of any characters, he can fight first. He has -1 to be hit in melee. If he fights a character, he can reroll wounds. And he has the Gift of Foresight Warlord trait, where he can reroll 1 hit, wound, and saving throw each turn. Alright, so he's a good addition to my troops. Then on to troops. I have 2 units of Incursors for doing the back-breaking work of staying back and doing objectives, and then a single unit of Assault Intercessors for like extra oomph. Then we get into the real meat. Elites, Vanguard Veterans, so they all have Lightning Claws and Storm Shields and jetpacks, but the Sergeant, he has a Relic Blade, so hitting on strength 7, AP -3, 2 damage each. Yeah, and they basically have 2s and 4s. So really tough, really mobile, really fast. And then we have Sanguinary Guard. So the first squad of 5 all has Power Fists. And so they'll receive buffs from Dante if they're nearby, which will make it very likely for them to hit much better. And yeah, and they have -1 to be hit in melee. Yeah, and if they're near a Blood Angel's Warlord or Dante, they have +1 to attack, so they'll be hitting on 3s with their Power Fists. Very useful. Then they have a unit of Sanguinary Guard. These ones have the Uncarmine Axe, which are pretty good, and yeah, so they might be hitting on 2s if their Warlord is nearby. And I have a unit of Death Company Marines. And these guys, just a bunch of crazy melee attacks. They all have jetpacks and thunder hammers. So they're just going to go in there and just beat things to death. So we'll see how that goes. Then in heavy, we have a Devastator squad with, not plasma, so I could not find the model, but these all have grav cannons. So bunch of grav cannons. So these guys are going to be doing a bunch of damage. And yeah. And they have the armored cherub, so one of their guys can immediately shoot again after they shoot all their guns. Yeah, and one of these guys with the Signum can shoot it on a 2-up, so that's going to be very useful. So, a lot of damage right here. And then we're going on to, of course, a Baal Predator, which I cannot find the correct model for to represent, but it has the twin assault cannon and heavy bolters and storm bolters. So this is just basically a huge mass damage machine. And yeah, and a pretty interesting thing, so a good weapons platform. Then moving on, we have the Whirlwind for sticking back, keeping enemies from deep striking, and of course shooting a lot. But we'll see how this goes. And yeah, and that is 2,000 points, or 1,997, and 2 CP of Blood Angels.
Alright, you guys, so for my, who are these? Adeptus Custodes. I went 2,000 points. I went with the Dread Host, so they're the angriest of the group. And so my character is a shield captain in Alaris Terminator armor, and he has both a Warlord trait and a relic. So I gave him the Castellan Axe, so the Dread Host has a relic axe, which is +3 strength, AP -3, and 3 damage flat. And its gun has 2 damage at strength 5 -1. And then obviously he has the regular Terminator stuff. His Warlord trait is that if he is less than his starting amount of wounds, he has +1 attack, and if he's less than half of his wounds, he has +2 attack straight. And then the oh no, that was the there are point upgrades you can give them, so that was defined to the last. So the Warlord trait, until the command phase, I can give one unit basically exploding 6s. So unmodified hit rolls of 6 add an additional hit. And yeah, so that's my Warlord. Then right over to his left is a Blade Champion. He's really straightforward. He basically fight stuff to the death. And yeah, that's my 2 HQs. Behind them are my troops. So obviously they only have one troop, with the exception of the prosecutors just behind them. But obviously custodians can't have any more of the Sisters of Silence than they have troops. Or equivalent units. So I have one squad of regular custodian guards, squad of 5 with the spears, and these are just troops, so they have objectives secured, and they're really mean and grumpy. And then behind them are another squad of 5. Actually, this one's with 6. Actually, I lied. These guys have shield and sword, so they're a little harder to move. And that's pretty much it. They have objectives secured. And then behind them is just a simple squad of prosecutors, which they're literally just chicks with bolters. They have objectives secured. Now, they are anti-psychers, so there's a little bit of stuff that they have for that. I'll have to look that up later, but essentially people within 18 inches and casting are at -1. And I think they get a chance to try and... What is it? It's not miscast. What's the word?
Deny.
Deny. There it is. Well, that's really simple. Okay, anyway. And that's my troops. So all of those guys are objective secured. Sisters of Silence will probably sit in the back while my other troops kind of move forward and hunker down. Moving on to elites. So the Custodes Terminators are these Alaris guys. So I give them all axes. The Misericordia, which is basically a free hit that's at AP -2 and just a single damage. They just get a single hit with those. And then they all have those grenade launchers. And then next to them, they have a Vexless Praetor and Alaris Terminator armor. So basically he only has a gun, but I did give him a relic. I actually spent the points for that, which is a strength 10, AP -4, D3 +3 damage. Gun called Obliteratum. whatever it is. And then his standard thing gives everyone within 6 inches, I believe it is, +1 attack. So he's kind of mean. And then behind them is the other elite choice, which is the Wardens, and I gave them axes as well. It just has more damage and AP and strength, I think. Oh no, this one is so AP2 -2, and then these spears are spears have a little higher AP, but these have higher strength. Anyway. Those guys are able to protect as bodyguards, so that's kind of cool, so I'll give them a go. And then behind them is a squad of 5 of the Praetors. Now, usually they have Hurricane Bolters, but I had an odd amount of points because even the cheapest unit is like 40 points, 45 points. Well, the cheapest model, I should say. The cheapest unit is way more than that. So I had quite a few extra points to spend, so I gave them all the salvo launchers, which are strength 8, AP -4, D3 +3 damage. So they'll be able to run around, shoot, and then beat the stuffing out of stuff. And so this will be interesting. It's a little bit small. It's not quite knights. So I have more models than them, but at the same time, I'm clearly outnumbered here. And so we'll see how we go. This will be interesting. I think it'll be fun. 2,000 points of the Dread Host.
Alright, and so we have tear down their icons for the mission. So this is a control 1, control 2, control more. And so what it is the map is split straight down in half, and you have to get into any area in your opponent's zone, and then you could start an action that is completed at your next command phase, or if it's an OBSEC unit at the end of the turn, and then you basically have planted explosives. And you want to, if you want to stop that, you can send a unit to that same area as long as there's no enemies in it. We place a marker down there to signify that it's been done, and then what you do is you can perform an action to undo it, and this action is started at the end of your movement phase and it's completed at the end of your turn. And once you do that, you then roll on a 4-up, you destroy the explosive catch. However, if you're OBSEC, you add 3 to that. So yeah, so is an interesting battle. It's going to be very hard for the Custodes to keep up with so few units, and so we'll see how this goes. Alright, so for setting up the battlefield, because I have mostly infantry and stuff, and I want to be able to move from cover to cover because he has pretty good shooting as well. So basically I put up a bunch of L shapes on the objectives to be able to deny shooting that would pick off my guys, and so I can sort of move around and do what I need to do a bit more strategically. So that was my plan, essentially. Yeah.
So I don't know if I had a plan. He has some pretty heavy shooting, which could be annoying, so I definitely needed something to help kind of protect my few models. And then I mean, he's mostly melee, so he's going to be trying to getting in and up close anyway, as am I. So really, it was just kind of like buildings to help block some of his longer sight weapons, like the grav cannons. But other than that, and I guess his predator. But that was pretty much it. I just kind of wanted some stuff to help hide me, and I think we got there. I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, I mean, I guess his plan worked for me as well because I also am predominantly infantry. But yeah.
Alright, so for secondaries, for the Blood Angels first, it's Relentless Assault, which is if I have more Blood Angel units in his deployment zone than he has units in my deployment zone, I get 4 victory points. And no prisoners. I mean, he has few models, but they have a lot of wounds, so that'll hopefully help turn the tide. And then Blade of Sanguinius, because I could not find a good third one. Basically, I select one of my characters, then I select one of his characters, and I get 5 points if that enemy character dies. I get 5 points if he died in melee, and I get another 5 if it was killed by my character that I selected. And that is my 3 secondaries.
Well, my 3 secondaries run on a similar idea, sort of. So the first one is the Adeptus Custodes secondary Stand Vigil. So basically, if I control more objectives in no man's land, then I get 3 victory points. And this is at the end of the battle round. And then grind them down. I have very few but very stubborn units, so I imagine more of your stuff will die than my stuff. Could be wrong, but we'll see. And then assassination. You have like 4 characters or 5 characters or something ridiculous. 4 characters. So I also didn't have a lot of choices left, so I was just like, well, we'll do that. And yeah, so hopefully those will work. I think both of our armies are pretty killy, so I think it'll be real obvious real quick who's getting the secondaries for this game, and who is not. But hopefully it's me, so.
Alright, so for my deployment, essentially what I was thinking was put everyone behind cover and then rapidly control the center line and being able to be flexible and react. Because a lot of my troops are jump packs, essentially that was my plan, and we'll see how things go from there and if I can penetrate to my opponent's lines. So that literally was my idea, just hide and be reactive, and then eventually, if the coast is clear, jump into their deployment zone and do good.
Oh. Well, I kind of had the same plan, which was run forward, take the middle objectives. But the other part of that was less reactive and more just punch you in the face. So, I don't really know if there's a secondary plan with Custodes. Even their shooting is just kind of modified bolters. So, I think that's just the army plan. You just run up and punch people in the face. So, I'm going to give it a go, and we'll see what happens.
Alright, so first turn, second turn, I'd say if the Blood Angels go first, essentially what's going to happen is going to immediately take the 2 objectives and whatchamacallit, I'm going to take these 2 objectives, hold them off, and basically position myself in a defensive position to deal with counterattacks and such. But my opponent goes first. I'm getting a bunch of turn one charges essentially, and I'm taking these 2 objectives in the middle. So essentially, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just going to be prepping up and taking the middle. That's all I'll do, whether I'm first or second.
Yeah, so I actually kind of want to go second because there would be literally nothing I would do in my first turn. I would literally just run up and then that's it. So at least second turn I could maybe shoot at something or maybe even charge something. But yeah, so going first, I mean, sure, I might get a better position, but really, I'm not really expecting a whole bunch on it. So yeah, so I'm kind of wanting to go second.
All right.
Because I don't even think you can really shoot anything of mine, even if you move, except with that whirlwind. But because it doesn't take line of sight, it gives me a save, and you're at -1 down.
And you're first.
Oh, okay.
Custodes turn 1.
Garbage. Okay.
Alright, so for pre-game, Death Company have a 1 CP strat if they're 5 and under models that they can move 12 inches automatically before the game. And so I move my Death Company up towards the middle, not their full 12, but in a good position where I can counterattack.
Alright, you guys, so for movement, everything that could run did run except for my Praetors, because I don't know what I want to do with them just yet, so they just didn't do anything. So my shield boys down at the bottom for you guys, top for me, ran. They rolled a 2 because they're just super lazy, but they were able to sit on the objective anyway, so that's fine. And then my custodians down at the bottom for me, top for you guys, ran, and they just booked it on. They were able to move a total of 9 inches, and so they did, and we'll see how that goes because they're kind of just out in the open, and so I guess we'll just test their custodial toughness. And then I have my wardens and my blade champion in the middle. They both ran, so they were able to actually just touch the objective. So technically I'm actually holding the objective right now because he kept his guys off of it. They're actually only 8 inches away, which is interesting. And then my blade champ also ran, but he rolled much more poorly than the wardens, so he only moved 8, and yet even though they moved 11, he was still pretty close. That's kind of weird, but anyway, so that was movement. Alright, you guys, so for my secondaries, I got nothing. Shocking. Technically, I could have got Stand Vigil if it was at the end of my turn, but right now it's not. So, yeah. So I got a whole lot of nothing. And that's it. Very cool.
All right. So right now I am playing chess. So Dante moved up into position in the L. He's flanked by his Sanguinary Guard, and then Sanguinary Priest is right next to you for healing and buffs. And cursors are moving up to hold that objective. And then the Vanguard vets, with their huge movement because of jetpacks, moved into position where they can intervene up top, in the middle, or at the bottom. So we'll see how that goes. As far as the bottom goes, my Death Company moved in to try to score first blood. Company Champion was able to move up. He's pretty much well covered, and he's not really going to be able to be hit from anything. Because everyone else moved around. Assault Intercessors ran, Incursors ran, Mephiston ran, but I did not give him the ability to fly yet, or at all. And then my Devastators moved up to the wall, so now they have line of sight to shoot. And my Predator is basically in reserves, and the Whirlwind can hit anything. Alright, so in my Psychic phase, Mephiston Lord of the Death gave himself the Quickening. It needed a 6. He got a 6. He's outside of their -1 Psychic Bubble range. And so he gave himself... he can reroll Advance and Charge rolls, and he has D3 extra attacks, but I only rolled a 1 for that. So he has 1 extra attack, and as far as all of his offensive spells, he has to have Line of Sight, and the only one he has Line of Sight for is outside their range. And that was my Psychic phase. And for the shooting phase, my Devastators tried to shoot at the Guardians up top, but only one could reach, and didn't do any wounds. Well, it did 1 wound, but they saved it. And then the Whirlwind fired at their Prosecutors in the back, but didn't do, they saved them all. So that was an uneventful shooting phase. Alright, so for the charge phase, I had my Death Company charge the Wardens right in front. I spent the 1 CP for Descent of Angels, where a Blood Angel Core jump pack can reroll charges, ignore modifiers, but when they make an attack, add +1 to their hit roll. So that's what I'm aiming for. And they all got in, and then he heroically intervened his Blade Champion in. Alright, so for combat phase, apparently his Blade Champion has always strike first, and so they killed off 3 of my Death Company Marines, even though they had 5 up Feel No Pains and such. And then my 2 guys swung who were left, and they successfully were able to kill 1 Castellan, and then the Castellan swung back and wiped out the squad. Alright, so for objectives, I've gained nothing, so we'll see how that goes. Although we forgot to mention at the beginning, Blade of Sanguinius, Dante will have to kill his Blade Champion for the full points, so we'll see how that goes.
Alright, you guys, so literally everything moved. So my shield boys just moved farther onto the objective that they're literally just going to camp on, because that is the name of the game here. And so, yeah, so they're not touching the walls, so they're still blocked. So he can't really see them, so he's going to have a really hard time moving those guys. Like a ridiculously hard time. And then my Wardens and Blade Champion in the middle ran on, well, they didn't run, but they moved on forward. And so they are nice and cozy with all these Blood Angels up in the middle. Mephiston is there, so that's a little worrying, but, you know, we'll see how we go. And then, down at the bottom, my Custodian Guards with the spears moved just 6 inches. They didn't run or anything crazy. They're just there. And then my deep strikes all came in, and that's kind of what took so long in this phase, just getting all the measurements right, because he's got the Vanguard vets here on this piece of terrain, then obviously all of these guys. Yeah, but all of those guys came in, and that's great. And then my bikes actually moved up the middle. They had a 14-inch move, which was really nice, and so they did that, and they are actually in a pretty cozy charge range. And so we will see kind of how that whole thing plays out. I don't know what I want to do with that just yet. But yeah, so that was my movement phase. Alright, you guys, so for shooting, a little bit happened. So my custodians with the guardian spear shot at his assault intercessors. I believe they killed one guy off. They're basically just fancy bolt guns with 2 damage, so he ignores the AP, so it just took bad rolls. So I killed one there, and then my warden with the Castellan axes in the middle. Because of my kata, basically anyone, their rapid fire guns can shoot twice. And so they were able to pour a whole bunch of bullets into the assault intercessors, and they killed 2 more. It doesn't sound like a lot, but so they were able to kill 2 with their guns, and that was pretty cool. And then the Blade Champion doesn't have any guns. The Custodians with the shields are hiding, so they can't see anything. And then my Praetors, 2 of them were able to see his incursors, 1 missed, and then 1 went through and it just evaporated a guy. And then my Terminators all shot. Oh, I forgot 1 gun. Shoot.
Too bad. Keep going.
I'll roll it right after this. The Terminator, the Captain and the Terminator shot their rapid fire guns at the incursors, killing 3 of them. And then the Alaris Terminator shot their grenade launchers at the Sanguinary Guard. 3 wounds went through, but he rolled 2 of those 6 up, feel no pain, so that was impressive. So only 1 went through on the Sanguinary Guard. And yeah, so that was good for him. And then that was the shooting phase, except for the 1 gun I forgot, which is the Praetor's Relic gun. So I'll shoot that real quick. He's just going to shoot it at the Sanguinary Guard. Alright, you guys, so for charges, a fair bit happened. So I started with easier charges, so my Blade Champion charged his incursors, and he rolled a 7, so he was able to get all the way up there and nice and cozy. And then my Wardens charged Mephiston and the Assault Intercessors. So they rolled an 8, they were good, they got all the way in. And then my Praetors tried to charge his company champion. They only needed a 6, I think, and they failed. And then the Dread Host gets to reroll charge rolls, and they failed again. So that was unfortunate. But anyway, then going all the way down, my Custodian Guard with the spear, or I guess they're not Custodian Guard, they're just Custodians, with the Guardian Spears, charged Dante and the Sanguinary Guard. Usually I wouldn't want to charge Dante just because he's a character and a particularly strong one at that. However, I could not feasibly get to the Sanguinary Guard without charging him, so it's kind of just, it is what it is. But they got in because I only needed like a 6. They rolled a 7. And then my Warlord charged and he got in with a 10. But then the rest of the Terminators decided they didn't feel like it, and they're just chilling down there. And then, so that was all my charges.
Yes, and then after that happened, I was thinking of spending 1 CP to have the Sanguinary Guard heroically intervene, but like I looked at it, it's like they would not be able to fit in around there, and so I didn't spend that with that. And so then the Sanguinary Priest heroically intervened, and then the company champion at the bottom heroically intervened into the Wardens, and that was the charge phase.
Yeah.
Alright, so for the combat phase, it was a huge mess because we kept forgetting and remembering some rules, and so you'll see some models come back and forth and some stuff. But you start.
Alright, well, I started with what I thought was a safe combat. So I started with my Blade Champion. What I forgot, I decided to try his Vault Sword, his Hurricana style. What I forgot is that it's AP -1 only, and so he did 8 damage 8 wounds went through exactly, but with AP -1, it was AP 0, so he did 1 damage. No, he did 3 damage. And so that was super depressing. If I had realized the AP, I would have done one of his other 2 that were -4. But, whatever. And then I went down to my Wardens. And so this is when it got a little funny because I forgot the first trait of my army, which was that if they attack something within 9 inches, they get an extra AP. And so they did. So 3 wounds went through on the company champion after a little bit of debate, and because originally it was 2, and then we moved on to another combat, and then I remembered it, so we rolled off for it. And so the company champion died by the warden. I was only able to do 2 damage to Mephiston with the other 3 guys. Just because I think he has an invuln and stuff, so he's pretty tough cookie. And then obviously I ignored the assault intercessors. Then I went all the way down to the bottom. At this point, he interrupted though with his sanguinary guard, and they did 3 guys swung on my custodians and 1 swung on the shield captain. And so they did 2 wounds to my shield captain, and I think they killed 1 guy initially. No, 2 guys. They killed 2 guys, 2 of my custodians. And then that was his interrupt, so then I swung back with the custodians. 1 on the sanguinary priest, 1 on Dante, and 1 on the sanguinary guard. I did 1 wound to the priest because of his feel no pain. Dante, I did nothing to. He saved all of his saves. And then I think I killed 1 of the sanguinary priests. And then my shield captain swung and finished them off. And then that was the end of my combats.
Yeah, and so my swings back weren't that better. The Incursor swing on the Blade Champion successfully did 1 wound. The Assault Intercessor swung on the Wardens, did nothing. Mephiston, with like 7 or 8 attacks, swung, did 2 damage to 1. Absolutely terrible. And then, whatchamacallit? Then the Sanguinary Priest with the Power Fist swung on the Custodians up top, did nothing. Dante swung and only managed to kill 1. And then the 2 Incursor swinging on the on his character did absolutely nothing. So yeah.
Alright, you guys, so for points, I actually got a lot of points this round. So starting off with the primaries, I got all 3. Because at the beginning of the round I was holding 3. There's only 5, so I got 1, 2, and more. I didn't get any of the mission secondary because I don't really have the troops to do it. And so, yeah, I just didn't get any of those. Stand Vigil, I did get, however, at the end of his turn, because I held more of the middle ground objectives. Grind them down. I killed one of his squads last turn, the Death Company guys. And so I got 3 points for that. And then this round I actually got 3 points for assassination because I killed his company champion. Now, as it stands, I stand to gain another 6 points at the end of his turn because I killed 2 of his units for grind them down. I believe the company champ and the sanguinary guard. So I need a dice to mark that. And he hasn't killed any yet, but I am Custodes, so that is the goal. So yes, and so at the end of his turn, I should stand to take 6 unless he kills off, which, anyway, yeah. So those are my points.
All right, so I have to make some tough choices. So I think Assault Centurion or the Assault Intercessors on the Wardens in the middle had to fall back, gone onto the objective. They have OBSEC, so that helps deny it. The Incursors fighting the Blade Champion had to fall back. Then my Vanguard Veteran moved up. Oh, they also received Chapter Master rerolls, even though they're more than 6 inches away, because of Dante's command trait gives them plus 3 inches to that stuff. So they were within range, so they have Chapter Master rerolls. They moved in to intercept the Terminators. This is the best chance. The Sanguinary Guard next to them moved up to be able to maybe split charge if needed. And yeah. Oh, and I forgot the Incursors next to the green guy. I didn't show it, but I did afterwards. Is that they will fall back as well, because there's no point in them being there. And the Ball Predator moved up to get line of sight. Might as well start putting in the work. And yeah, so this is make or break right now. Alright, so for the Psychic Phase, Mephiston casted Smite on the squad in front of him and did 2 mortal wounds. Then he cast Blood Boil on the same unit, and essentially what happens is it has to get a 6 and the cast to get it, If it's greater than their toughness, they take a D3 mortal wounds. If it's double their toughness, they take flat 3. And so I rolled and they did 1 mortal wound. So I did a total of 3 mortal wounds. Yeah, meh. And I also spent 1 CP to re-roll the first psychic ability. Alright, so hard choices had to be made for shooting. So the Devastator Marines mag dumped into the Blade Champion. Did 4 wounds to him. He used a re-roll to save one of them, and so he was fine. Because I have to kill him in melee to get points and kill him with Dante to get 15, but that's just, it's not in the cards. And so after that, Dante fired into melee with his pistol and killed one of the Custodians with his Inferno pistol, which is basically a melt-a-gun. Then Sanguinary Priest fired into melee, did nothing. And then Mephiston fired into these Wardens, did absolutely nothing. And then the Battle Predator decided to mag dump and finish off the Blade Champion, and it was terrible. His main gun only had 1 wound done, and his other guns did only 1 wound. It was finally the heavy bolter, the last heavy bolter shot killed it. And so that was an incredibly terrible, uneventful fight. Oh, and the Whirlwind shot at his prosecutors in the back and killed one. Alright, so for charge phase, this is the Hail Mary. So the Vanguard Vets charge the Alaris Terminators, and... oh, wait, there's a character in there. Oh, okay, him as well. And basically, this is the best chance. So this is the one squad that has the best chance. They're re-rolling hits, and they're re-rolling to wounds, as like they have the absolute best chance of actually doing something. So we'll see how that goes. And then the Sanguinary Guard surrounded the one shield captain. So we'll see how this goes. This is pretty much it. Alright, so for the fight phase, I had the Vanguard Veterans swing, but apparently he has a 1 CP strat, just 1 CP, and turned off all my rerolls. So my rerolls to wound, my rerolls to hit, and so I only ended up killing one of the Custodians.
It was actually 2 because of the squad size. They have more than 4 models, but...
oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was a massive disappointment, and then they barely did anything. And then my... he basically has a 1 CP interrupt, so he interrupted with his shield captain because he was next to an objective, and then immediately just slaughtered the entire squad of Sanguinary Guard that were around him before they got to swing. And after that, it was his combat, so he killed Mephiston with his Wardens down there. And then Dante killed off the last Custodian that was of that squad that was on the objective next to him. Mm-hmm. And then that was it. And then he went and swung with his just Alaris Custodians and just completely wiped out the squad. Even with their 4-up and vulnerable saves, I couldn't make any good saves. And
they had a lot of swings, though, to be fair.
And that was combat. Alright, so we decided to call it there because it pretty much was over. It could never do anything. So for MVP, LVP, for Blood Angels, LVP is actually a bit hard to say because it's more of a battle of guys who just couldn't do anything. Like the company champion never really got a chance to do anything. He has always fight first against characters, but if he would have intervened earlier into the Blade Champion, how it works is that it's if 2 people have always fight first, it's the person whose turn it is. Yep. And so couldn't make any good saves over there, but he really didn't get to do anything because like he just kept getting disabled and kept getting put into a bad situation. Then there's the Death Company guys. I didn't expect them to have fight first with a guy and just wipe them out, but they did kill people, so they're in a runner-up. The Vanguard Vets, we did a Theory Hammer, and basically if I still had my rerolls, I would have wiped out half the squad, and then half of my squad would have survived. So really they would have done great, but it's just like they got disabled. So the only one who truly was a failure was Mephiston, because with no disables and no nothing, he only killed 2 Custodes. With all his power and all his abilities, he did nothing. And he just got obliterated. So Mephiston is my LVP. And MVP is just simply going to go up to Dante for the amount of slaughter he brought. He just killed everything. Everything he got across. He kept killing Custode after Custode after Custode, even in the shooting phase. He just kept slaughtering. So even though he really didn't do much, I mean, he did the most. And just straight up. So he is my MVP. So over to you.
Well, as far as like army-wide goes, I think everyone actually did what they were supposed to do really well. I'm kind of sad I didn't get to see my Praetors given a chance to do anything, but they would have wiped both the vehicles in this upcoming turn, so that would have been whatever. And obviously my shield boys, they just set on an objective. So, but as far as MVP goes, I think as far as just straight kill points goes, it would have to be my shield captain. He basically killed anything he touched. So that's both squads of your Sanguinary Guard. Actually, that's all he touched. But it was impressive the way he did it, I guess. I don't know. But so I'd say he was MVP. I mean, there's a lot of guys that I could say. I mean, even the Wardens, they held their own. I mean, he rolled kind of bad, so that's probably why. And then the Alaris Terminators, they wiped the whole Vanguard squads. There's a lot of good runner-ups. I mean, and then LVP, honestly, even though the Blade Champion is standing here because he couldn't kill a squad of Incursors, he probably would have been shot down anyway, because then he would have just been standing out in the open. So that was tactically probably not a good idea on my end. But yeah, so he's LVP because he didn't wipe a squad of Incursors. Now, it's technically not his fault because I didn't realize the AP when I chose the attacks, but I mean, if I had to pick someone, it's going to be him just because he wasn't able to pull off a lot of damage. He is really cool though because he did hit 2 of the Death Guard or Death Company jump pack Marines early on, or was it 3? 2 or 3 of them. Because if he's in combat, he fights first, characters or not, and so that's pretty cool. But again, the Incursor survived. That was unfortunate. But yeah, so that's what I would say, MVP, LVP. Yeah. This, the Custodes really surprised me. I was actually kind of nervous because Blood Angels are known for being just mean and really aggressive, and they were. You definitely played them well, but I just didn't realize how much of a bully the Custodes are.
Yeah, and by bully, it's not that they have big buffs, it's that they have debuffs, and that's really the bully thing, because like all my abilities, all my strategies, all that stuff, it's like I did literally I didn't know what the Custodes could do, so I played like everything pretty much perfect chest-wise. I set traps and layers and stuff, but everything I did was just deactivated or turned off or one-upped in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. And so it's like...
did not care what you did.
Yeah, and so it's like I couldn't do anything, really. Like, I couldn't even do the basic strategies I had, not because of bad dice rolls or stuff. It's just like I couldn't do them. And so, like, they stopped my abilities. I mean, I probably would not have chosen some of the things on this list. I just copy-pasted one list and then made a few changes.
That were good.
It had its ups, but, like, I can... I would have made...
was maybe not.
Well, I would not have brought a company champion.
Yeah, I literally, like, the Black Templar champion, the Emperor's champion.
Yeah, he's the exception.
But literally every other company champion I've tried is just... they only have 4 wounds.
Literally, if he had one more wound, he would have lived and would have slaughtered something.
Yeah.
So
but, I mean, that was just kind of luck of the dice on that one, so that's a little hard.
Yeah.
But
Manlet champion.
Yeah.
And so it's...
Yeah, so even I was actually surprised because they actually don't have as many buffs, the Custodes, as I thought. Because there was no, like, most armies have some kind of advance and charge stratagem.
Yeah.
There's no rerolls or pluses, really. But it was, they have just a bunch of deep, like, tactical
debuffs.
Stratagems.
Yeah, tactical strategic
they even have
debuffs.
this one called a Tanglefoot Grenade. You can only use it once per turn, but I basically, either in the movement phase or in the charge phase, if you're within 12 inches, I take d6 inches off of your move or charge. And that's just like, if that's like a key charge, like, that's scumbaggy.
Yeah.
But so they, I was surprised. I actually really dug them, and I know I'll end up playing them next week for their second tryout. But I'm going to try something a little different. So this was the Dread host. So their thing is they're out of all the hosts, they're the the ones that literally just go in and beat people to death. Like they're the ones that are like, okay, if we're gonna go, we're gonna kill everything. And so I brought really like aggressive mean. I say aggressive and mean units, but really it was basically one of all of their units in the book. So
Yeah,
but I really dug it.
I will say, as far as the Blood Angels, they're a highly mobile, good jetpack, heavy focused.
Yeah,
if you want
like
to.
half your army moved 12 inches every turn.
Yeah, Death Company's very strong. So I see a lot of the strengths. This is a very mobile melee army, very highly mobile.
Hard.
They hit very hard and they hit a lot when they're able to. So,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah, those Terminators were just bullies that debuff, and then they swung so hard. But yeah, I actually really enjoyed playing the Custodes. But, oh man, they're rude.
I might swap what army I'm going to play next week, simply so I can play something I'm much more familiar with, just to have a better game, straight up.
We gotta rotate through them.
I need a better game. I might go straight up.
Space Wolves are pretty good, I think.
I think I'm going to go
They have actually
Orcs.
a really good Dreadnought list, but I don't think
I don't know if that'll
I don't
matter.
know if Dreadnoughts are a good call against Custodes either.
I'm thinking of going Orcs now, just to have something that can be a challenge, that I know I can challenge this, because it was too much.
Well, I mean, we got still quite a few books to rotate through, but I mean, if
Yeah.
you want to, I guess go for it.
It's only because of the unique situation, but yeah,
Well,
it's like.
but yeah, I did enjoy the Custodes. I thought they were fun, but again, they are, I don't know how much fun they are to play against. So in that sense, maybe this was just maybe a really not deceptively, just maybe this was just a really good list and I didn't realize. But of course, I'm not playing the Dread Host next week. I'll play something else. I was thinking maybe a vehicle list, but we'll see. I don't know.
All right. Well, GG's. So.